Hi, happy Friday again. We are here for round two to see if I can make this technology work for me. This week we've been talking about financial self-care, and it's been a really fun week for me personally because from my social media polls and stuff, from everybody commenting back, it's been a really active week, and so I've learned a lot from some friends. I learned a lot of stuff that I didn't really expect to learn. So that's been really cool. Okay, perfect. So Adam says he can hear me, so this should be working. Perfect. So I guess I'm just gonna have to do my videos with my headphones to make the microphone work. As I was saying, I learned a lot this week from everybody's input, and so I just want to thank everybody for giving me feedback or talking to me about how you feel about financial self-care, and just that was very, very helpful. So I'm gonna spend today just kind of sharing some of that with y'all. I have all of my notes here ready to go. So the way that I'm going to start that off is first talking about, I asked people what their challenges are to financial self-care, because I hate talking about finances. It has never been my favorite topic. I get antsy when we have to talk about it. I kind of go to extremes. So when I feel like we need to be saving, I am like a penny pincher. I don't want to, let any expense go unless it's absolutely necessary. And then when I feel like we're in a good place, I'm a little bit of a retail therapy shopper. Not to a detriment, but it's definitely not the healthiest habit. But I do know that about myself because we have engaged in financial self-care. I think it's something that we value in our family and we pay attention to it. And so I know that. Sometimes I can indulge a little bit on some retail therapy, and other times I really need to kind of focus on like, okay, buying that candle is not going to fix this issue. So, don't do that, and do something else that's actually going to help me feel better for a longer period of time, because retail therapy can be fun, but it doesn't always last all that long. So some of the challenges that I heard from other people this week, or some of the feelings about financial self-care and why it's hard, is feelings of being unforgiving towards yourself, whether you're making mistakes, whether you're not saving enough, whether you're overspending, just not being forgiving and very judgmental of yourself. That could definitely be a challenge to jumping into those conversations and leaning into learning about your finances if that's the feeling that you get when you have to talk about finances. I'm absolutely in that camp too. It's stressful. I think finances in general can be very stressful. I don't know the percentage. I probably should have looked it up, but I know that finances is a huge reason for divorce, and that's sad because I feel like that's something that could be worked around, prevented, but we know that it's kind of inherently a little bit stressful, if not super, super stressful. It's intimidating. I know I get intimidated by just the hugeness of those numbers. I'm pretty good about like the budget that I understood when I was in college for myself, which was, never over $1,000, except for the student loans that I just pretended were not a thing. Paid my rent with them, whatever. But those numbers to me are literally intimidating. If there is honestly more than 3 digits, I don't like talking about it. It just makes me nervous. Those big numbers, it can be intimidating, and talking about your finances is intimidating for all sorts of reasons. Feeling micromanaged, I think this especially comes into play when it's in a relationship and your finances are a part of a partnership or a part of a family, and feeling like you are really being held accountable to your finances, and no one likes to feel micromanaged. And when it comes to an already sensitive subject, that can definitely be a challenge to starting those conversations and making sure that your family is like financially fit. Not saving enough, definitely a challenge. Student loans, talked about that already. Those are stressful and intimidating, and they are definitely a challenge to financial self-care. If there was tension around money and finances growing up, it could very easily be affecting the way you feel about talking about finances now. It could be kind of like already created a path of what you think that conversation is going to sound like because of what you've seen. And so that's definitely a hindrance towards having healthy financial conversations. It's overwhelming. It can be an overwhelming topic. Feeling like it's all on your shoulders, especially in a partnership. This makes me, I guess it gives me pause because I wonder if this is how Adam feels, because I hate talking about it so much that a lot of it does fall onto Adam's shoulders. He has a better brain for finances than I do, but he also, I could figure it out, but the bigger thing is that he does not get near as emotional when we talk about finances as I do. So that's why it comes down to him, and I can see how that could be a big pressure in a relationship. Or if you're not in a partnership, but feeling like it is all on you to pay off your student loan debt or pay off a house or credit card debt or whatever it might look like. And then the last one, having to limit fun things because of money. That's not a fun thing to do. It's not something we want to do as parents. It's not something we want to do as friends. Not something we want to do pretty much in general, because fun things are fun. So those are some of the challenges that I heard from. Then I also asked, how likely is the holiday spending to blow your budget? And on both Instagram and Facebook, the average answer seemed like it was pretty likely to happen for a number of different reasons. So some of those reasons that I heard from people were having a big family, so you have a lot of people to buy presents for, getting carried away with gifts or loving to buy gifts so much that you don't really pay attention to what you're spending, not planning for the spending, which is right on point to why we're talking about this week. I think it's important to talk about finances for the holidays right now because it's the end of October. We have 2 months until Christmas. So you still have a window of time to really make a plan around how much money are you going to spend on each person? Who are the people that are going to get gifts from you? Or do you want to make gifts for people? Or do you want, to get more meaningful, less expensive gifts or something like that? Now is the time to be having that conversation so that it's not December 14th and you're super stressed about all the gifts that you have to get and all the money that you're going to be spending in a period of 2 weeks, because that's going to blow your budget for sure. So I made this the theme for this week because finances is the part of self-care that scares me the most. So there's the Halloween theme in there, but it's also, I think, important for us to talk about first because there's going to be planning, and the holiday is a time where we spend money. We really do. I learned in one of I've been taking these free online marketing classes for all of this stuff, and I learned in there that during this period of time, during the holidays, people are just more likely to be spending money because that's what's going on. That's our schedule. That's why, there's the Black Friday, Cyber Monday. There's all these sales all this time because people are just ready to spend money right now. And so I think knowing that and having that in the back of your mind can maybe help you not spend money where you don't need to. And then not paying attention to your spending during the holidays. I'm definitely guilty of that. I'm like, ooh, gifts, let's buy this. Ooh, yes, let's get this. And I pay way less attention than I do during, any other time of the year. So I think it's easy to kind of choose not to pay attention to what you're spending, and then that's probably going to blow your budget. So those are some of the challenges or the things that I heard this week about what's going on, especially from people who do not like talking about finances. Now, I was surprised by the number of people who actually really enjoy talking about finances. I really thought that I would put this poll up and it'd be like, I love it, I hate it, and it would be 100% I hate it. And for a little while, there were more people who loved it than people who hated it. And I was really surprised because that is just not me at all. I hate talking about finances. I don't know that I will ever enjoy talking about finances, no matter how secure we are in our financial area of our marriage, but it's not a fun topic for me. But I am very appreciative of the people that enjoy talking about it and were willing to talk with me about it because I learned a lot from them. And it also gave me the perspective that it can be fun. So that was really important for me to know. So I have all of the notes from things that I learned from people and I'm going to keep everything anonymous from people's tips and stuff, but I want to share those. But before I share other people's tips, I want to share with you the financial self-care ideas that I have in the self-care for this season of your life. So some of the ones that I have listed in here are talking to a financial advisor. I just think that's super beneficial. We have one that really understands the way that Adam's job is paid, because it's not the typical you get paid twice a month at the beginning and the middle, or the middle and the end. And then moving forward, if I'm able to ever take on some private clients, it's also going to be not that way. It's going to look a little bit different. And so it's helpful to have somebody who can understand and wrap their mind around, okay, this is how income comes into this family, and then here's some advice on how I would do this, this, and this. And it's been really beneficial to us. And I have quite a few friends who would recommend getting a financial advisor, including some cousins that are financial advisors. Creating a budget and practice sticking to it. That's kind of a simple idea, but it's a big task. Assess your credit card debt. I think a lot of us would prefer not to assess our debt, especially our credit card debt, because that means we're actively putting more into that debt. But I think really sitting down, no matter how hard it is, and getting an idea of how much credit card debt you are in, or how much student loan debt you have, or how much whatever debt you have, is going to give you the power to pay that debt off and to get that off of your shoulders. And you can't do that if you don't know how much debt you're in. Create or build an emergency fund. This is a huge one, especially for us recently. So we have had been working on emergency fund ever since we got married, maybe even a little bit before we got married, but I don't remember for sure. But especially ever since we had Jackson, that's been a big financial goal of ours, is to get that emergency fund in our savings, bigger and bigger. And in, some of y'all might know this, but in February, our dog Cooper was diagnosed with diabetes, and that was a little hit to our finances. Just to manage diabetes, it's more than his typical cost, which was just food and annual vet care. And then at the beginning of the summer, he somehow ingested a rare parasite that has had him spending a lot of time with a internal medicine vet. He's spending a lot of time in the vet hospital. It's been very emotionally stressful and overwhelming, but Cooper is a part of our family. He is a member of our family. And so our emergency fund is there to take care of him too. And it was not fun conversations to have about how much money we were spending, but I am so thankful that we did have a little pocket of some money, so that taking care of Cooper, we didn't really have to make a difficult choice, because we did have the money to put towards his vet care. And that just so meaningful for me, and such a very personal experience of why having an emergency fund is such a huge deal. So I would, definitely encourage you to have one. And then when you have to use it, when you get out of that crisis place, then encourage you to build it right back up, because you want to have it. Then some more of the kind of fun financial self-care, or at least more fun in my opinion, is looking into donating. So before you even feel like you have to make a donation, research the places you want to donate to, you'd like your money to go to, and really know what's going to go behind your donation. That costs nothing to look up those websites, and it can be really good for your financial self-care, because maybe right now you're not in a place to give to those organizations, but you want to be in the future. And so then now you have a new financial goal. I know all through undergrad, I had this plan that I wanted to be able to give back to A&M through a ring fund, and we have not made moves towards that, but it's still a goal of mine. Because I paid for my Aggie ring with Christmas money from my grandpa that I got every year, and then tip money from my job at Spoons. And I brought it all to the bank. I kept it in a blue piggy bank all through college. And when I was finally ready to go order my Aggie ring, I walked into the Chase Bank with this little piggy bank, ready for them to help me roll up my coins and make sure I had enough to pay for the ring. And it was a really fun experience. I loved that I paid for my ring. My grandpa obviously helped me, but he was going to give me that money for Christmas either way. So it was important for me, and so I would love to share that for somebody else. So that's a donating goal that I, have in mind. We have not done it yet, but it's fun for me to think about. I feel passionate about that, and I want to, come up with a cute, catchy name about the piggy bank, but I don't have an idea yet. So if you have any ideas, please share them. And then make that donation. And then that's going to give you some positive feelings about your finances, that you're able to share those funds with some cause that is meaningful to you. So those are my tips from the self-care guide. I want to share with you what some of my friends shared with me this week about different financial self-care things. So I'm just going to go through these. So first of all, there were 2 apps that were shared with me for budgeting. One is called Mint, like a peppermint. And you can create a budget, you can create goals, but it's also going to auto-categorize your purchases so you can see where your money's going. And I think that's super important to kind of know what you're doing before you can make any decisions or goals or budgets. Another app that was told to me is Every Dollar app by Dave Ramsey. You don't have to follow everything that Dave Ramsey says, but I've heard his name a lot over the past few years from different people. I know some of his stuff is pretty radical, I guess. And so we don't follow everything that Dave Ramsey does. But early on in our marriage, me and Adam, I agreed to listen to an audiobook about finances as much as I did not want to. I knew it was important. And so we both listened to one of Dave Ramsey's books, and it was really helpful because we had an objective place to start to have those conversations about how we're going to handle our finances. So we could say, like, this is what I liked from today's chapter, or this is what I didn't like, or this was weird, I don't understand this. But it really gave us some talking points. So I think it's a really great place to start. Whether or not you agree with the techniques is fine. But if you're hearing it and getting some idea, it might get some wheels turning. Some other people that were listed to me were Chris Hogan, Rachel Cruz, John Deloney, and Christy Wright. And I think all of those people are kind of Dave Ramsey fans, so they might kind of go along with some of his ideas. But I know I was told that John Deloney talks a lot about mental health, and so I plan to look that one up because I think that's going to be interesting to me. Some quick places to make to get a little bit more money back from your budget is adding up all of your subscriptions, and like your monthly subscriptions to Netflix, to whatever apps you have or whatever, to a gym membership, and seeing if those things are still subscriptions that you want to be paying for. Are you still even using those things? And if you are, then fine. Are you happy to keep spending that money? But if you're not happy to keep spending that money, then maybe you can make a little bit of money back by turning off that subscription. Another quick way, but a harder way in my opinion, even though we've been doing a lot less of it because of quarantining and all of that, is watching how much you spend on eating out or fast food or Starbucks or takeout or whatever. Mine would probably be Chick-fil-A, but that can be an easy place. That can be an easy switch to just make sure you eat more often at home or get your coffee more often at home. That can be a quick place if you know that you need to make some financial changes like tomorrow. That's something you could do is, make your coffee at home or bring your lunch or whatever. It's not an easy place, in my opinion, to make a change, but it is an immediate place for sure. This is one of my 2 favorite tips that I learned this week. Adjust your perspective of saving and focus on the greater things it will help you be able to do. So I love this because it's really it's a mindset change. That's all it is. It's not a tip about how to save more money. It's a tip about changing the way that you look at it and changing your perspective. So instead of thinking, well, I can't have this Starbucks drink because I'm trying to be saving right now, or I can't go out to eat because we're on a budget right now. That's going to make it hard to not want to do the things you want to do. But if you focus on it and say, you know what, I'll go out and hang out with you guys, but I'm going to eat dinner at home because I can't wait until we can pay off our house. And that's what our big goal is. Or, one of me and Adam's big goal is having a king size bed. And that's something that I'm so looking forward to. And, it's a little bit easier to not buy 72 candles at Bath and Body Works if I'm focusing more on those bigger goals later on that I'm going to get from saving. Give your saving a purpose, which kind of goes along with my favorite one that I just mentioned, and write out the big goals for saving. Because if you don't know what your big goals are, then it's going to be hard to look forward to them. If you're just telling yourself, well, I save because I need to save, or I save because my parents said it's important, or because my husband wants to save and that's no fun, it's not going to be easy to save up for those big things. Don't spend more than you make. That's a pretty simple tip in general, but if you're not doing all of the hard work of having these conversations or looking at your spending or looking at your credit card and bank statements, then how do you really know you're not overspending? Unless you're, a penny pincher and you don't spend at all, it's going to be hard unless you really look at it to know, okay, I am spending more than I make. I'm putting too much on a credit card, or I'm pretty good. I'm not. So really, really looking into it, I think, is important. This one was for like in a marriage or in a relationship where your finances are combined, creating a personal budget, money that does not need to be approved or to spend by the other person or even checked in with. It's just your money to do whatever you want with it. I think that's nice because it can kind of alleviate those feelings of feeling micromanaged. So I liked that one. Start small, focus on tracking. So I know when me and Adam started budgeting early on in our marriage, really we just spent a couple months looking at, okay, like what are our trends? Where do we spend money? And then we looked at really putting numbers on what we are okay spending in different areas. So if you are just starting out to look at your finances, or if it's really overwhelming, start really small and just focus on looking at it. Just see what's happening and know where your money's going. Write out all of your reoccurring monthly expenses, like, rent, utilities, anything that happens monthly that's going to come out of your paycheck, and then build your budget with what's left from that paycheck. Set realistic and achievable budgets for groceries, eating out, Target trips. I honestly think that if you know that you're going to do things like go to Target, or if you know you're going to do things like, I don't know, if you're a really active runner and you know you're going to spend money on multiple 10Ks or whatever you're going to do, then budget for that so that you don't feel like you are messing up your budget by engaging in those things, because you know those are things that you're going to want to be doing. So if you know you're an avid Target tripper, then plan for how much you're going to spend at Target. Because it's going to be a lot easier to go into Target and say, okay, here's the number that I feel okay spending today, rather than saying, I can't go to Target, I can't go ever, because that sucks. That's not going to be any fun. So build it into your budget if you can, if you have room for it. This is my other favorite tip from this week, is include your self-care expenses in your budget so that it is a priority and not a luxury. I love this. I think it's probably my number one, because first of all, so self-care does not have to be expensive. Self-care can be completely cost-free if it needs to be. But if there are self-care things that you want to spend money on, add it into your budget so that you don't feel like you have to choose between your self-care or your finances. I know I haven't gotten a manicure since COVID, but I know for me, I really liked getting a manicure about once a month. I didn't need to do it weekly. I don't need that kind of self-care on a weekly basis, but it was a little treat for myself that I could do monthly. And so we planned around that. We planned around that for financially, and that made it way more enjoyable to go get my manicure because there was no guilt. It was a guilt-free indulgence. And so if you have some kind of self-care thing that's going to cost money, identify it and add it into your budget so that you are able to do it. Have a percentage of your income go directly to a savings account, so you never have to see that money go into savings. It takes the whole decision away from you because you've already made the decision for it to go. So you don't have to decide each month, okay, well, are we going to spend this money or is it going to go into savings? It already goes. You don't have a choice this month because that's where it's going to go from your employer. This tip I kind of added to the actual tip that I got was my question was, how do you make self-care more bearable, or the conversations about it? And the tip was a big bottle of wine. And I know that was funny, but I added to it a little bit because I think that can be a real tip. Make the planning around finances fun. Like if that means that you make a date night out of it and you do have a bottle of wine while you talk about finances, do it. If you are a person who likes highlighters and charts and sticker charts or whatever you want, then do that with your finances. Do something to make it more enjoyable for yourself. Or have a fun reward. Like if you know, after I do this, after I look at my credit card statement, I'm going to go get my manicure, I'm going to go do whatever. It's going to make the conversation a little bit easier to jump into because there is a fun element to it. It doesn't have to be something that you just dread. And then on that same topic, if you are in any kind of relationship or partnership where you do have to talk about finances, I think a big important part is going in and making sure that both of you are on the same page about not being judgmental towards each other, and that you are doing that to better your financial standing, you're doing it to better your family, your marriage, whatever, so that no one feels attacked during that conversation. I think that's a really important part. And if you both talk about that before you start the conversation, it might give you a feeling of security if you're the person who gets nervous about your spending, or it might give you a reminder to not come off as attacking if you lean towards being the person who kind of micromanages. So I think that's a really important thing, is just lay it out on the table. Say, this conversation sucks, but we're going to go into it. We know that we care for each other. We know that we love each other, but we have to have this conversation, and we're going to have this conversation in a loving and caring way. Next, monitoring your progress is rewarding. So working towards the goal of saving, or working towards paying off a debt, or working towards any kind of financial goal can be really rewarding if you can see the progress. But if you're a person who kind of chooses to ignore your finances and you don't really want to know what's going on with it, then you don't get to see that progress that you're making. So I thought that was a good tip from someone who enjoys talking about money, because it's another mindset change. Having a plan for emergency provides a safety net. I talked about that with Cooper, with our dog Cooper. I think that that's a huge plus. And also after having a baby, I just can't say more. I think everyone should be emergency fund for sure. Once you have some stability, you can feel a sense of pride, and it can be fun. So that goes back to the kind of mindset change. Once you do all this hard work to get through the yucky conversations, having some stability and kind of enjoying what you're going to do with your money can be a really big payoff. Meet with an advisor. We talked about that one when we talked about the self-care guide. And then this is one from me. Use a highlighter over your statements to see what you're spending where. So that app, Mint, will do that for you. And I didn't know that when I did this for us, but I went through and color-coded one of our statements a few years back to kind of look at, okay, we're spending this much money at HEB each month, we're spending this much money on gas, this much money on eating out, whatever, and kind of gave myself an idea. And I am one of those people who really likes highlighters and sticker charts and all of those kind of things. So I actually had fun doing that. Even though looking at the numbers was not fun, the highlighting part was fun. So do that if that's something you need to do, or get the app Mint if you don't want to go through the highlighting process. So that's what I learned from everyone this week. Again, I just want to say thank you if you had a conversation with me about finances. It was really honestly fun to just kind of get everyone's perspective of finances, especially the ones who were different from me, because I don't like it. If you really want to create a self-care plan that is unique to you and what you need, especially this week, if you need to get your finances in order and kind of you're realizing that that's a place where you need to do some self-care, then go check out my book. It's called Self-Care for This Season of Your Life. This is the black and white cover. It's on Etsy, and my shop is called the Self-Care Shop by LKC, which is my initials. On there, it's a more colorful picture. You just download it, and you can either use it digitally. You can fill it in on your computer, on your iPad or whatever, or you can print it out like I have done, and you can use it if you like to write on paper. So go check that out. And then if you have any extra financial tips or questions, or anything you just want to react to this video, then please let me know, because I have really enjoyed having all of these conversations this week, and I would love to keep them going. Otherwise, have a happy Halloween, and enjoy your weekend.